Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you again for your patience. Thank you for joining us here at Build Expo and Conference 2018 here at the Montego Bay Convention Center. My name is Brian Brown. I'll be your compere for this opening ceremony, the official opening ceremony for this year's event, the second year. But before we do anything else, a lot of people to big up, some of them way above this roof. Speaking of the person above this roof, let's open it in the right and proper way. And as he takes his seat, he's going to have to get up right away because I'm going to invite Apostle Dr. Richard Keene, Justice of the Peace, to open with prayer for us. You can clap him, I think. I think that's appropriate.
Thank you ever so much. Isn't it a pleasure to be here this afternoon, this evening? It's going into evening now. Are you enjoying yourself so far?
Yes. They said yes.
They said yes, okay. All right. So I think this is such a very interesting event. I was here for the first time and I prayed. And it happened a second time. So I think the chairman said that if I prayed again, then he's guaranteed for another 10 years. Is that okay? Would you mind standing and let us pray? Our Heavenly Father, we are truly thankful that you have brought together this evening such wisdom, such knowledge, such talent, such giftings. And we just pray a blessing upon this event. We ask that everyone, when it's over, would have benefited by the exposure of their products, and that indeed Jamaica will benefit so much because the investments that are being made by overseas companies and products that are brought into the island will enhance our building industry and cause it to really boom. And so we thank you for your presence. Bless every person and every organization that is represented here. And this we ask in the mighty name of Jesus. And we all agreed and said, thank you ever so much. Thank
you. Thank you, Dr. Keene. And so, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here with you, to see so many distinguished citizens, not just of Jamaica, but especially from our visiting partners in Canada and other places all over the world. So at this time, I'd like to use this opportunity to acknowledge your presence formally. As I alluded earlier, the Honorable Minister of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture, and Fisheries, Member of Parliament, Honorable Minister Audley Shaw, is en route and will be here momentarily. We acknowledge the presence of Dr. Horace Chang, Member of Parliament, Minister of National Security, Montego Bay's first citizen, His Worship, the Mayor of Montego Bay, Councillor Homer Davis, and of course, other present councillors of the St. James Municipal Corporation, Her Excellency, Laurie Peters, Canadian High Commissioner to Jamaica and the Bahamas. Dwight Crawford, Chairman, Build Expo and Conference. Apostle Dr. Richard Keene, Family Church on the Rock. We also see with us Mr. Godfrey Dyer, Chairman of the Tourism Enhancement Fund. Mrs. Claudette Bryan, President of the Lay Magistrates Association of St. James. Mr. Robin Russell, JHTA, Montego Bay Chapter Chair. And we have also most of our speakers that will be at the conference on Monday. And we will be introducing them individually throughout this program, but we'd like to welcome them en bloc for being with us this evening. I'd also like to acknowledge the presence of several of the directors of the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce and Industry that I see here present. And of course, the media and distinguished ladies and gentlemen, welcome again. No event like this is possible regardless of how much prayer is done without sponsorship. Right? So they work hand in hand, in tandem. We especially like to big up our gold sponsors, Hardware and Lumber, who continue to put their money and resources where their mouth is. And of course, Joe Bogdanovich and his team is here. Terrestra, also stepping up big time and continue to do so. We really, really appreciate your input and your effort to always play an important role in being here and building this legacy that we've created. Thank you so much, Terrestra. We've also always had a strong link overseas, and this year it grew tenfold, I think, especially through opportunities New Brunswick, ONB, who is here in a big way physically, but also just in terms of their collaboration and support to make this event possible. We single them out as well. Give them a big round of applause. We'd like to thank our other silver sponsors, Alcor, and everybody who lives in Jamaica. That jingle sticks in your head, does it not? Alcor, windows and doors. Yeah, you hear it. It's like, you know it, right? Dollar Financial, Pier 1 on the, am I right? Pier 1 on the waterfront, Deja Resort, Events, Expos, and Expeditions, Ecliptic Digital, John Swaby Entertainment, so sound and audio, visual, what you're seeing is John Swaby, Knutsford Express, D&D Welding, the Jamaica Observer, the Montego Bay Convention Center are hosts, the Urban Development Corporation, and the National Housing Trust. Please give it up for all our sponsors. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we continue to thank you for your support, but no one does that better than the person whose brainchild this was some years ago and whose blood, sweat, and tears leads the team that makes this possible. So I'd like to welcome to the podium right now for official welcome and introduction, Mr. Dwight Crawford, JP, and Counselor, Chairman for Build Expo and Conference 2018.
Thank you, Master of Ceremonies. Honorable Minister, Dr. Horace Chang, His Worship the Mayor, Councillor Homer Davis, Her Excellency Laura Peters of the Canadian High Commissioner to Jamaica and the Bahamas, Apostle Richard Keane, Mr. Godfrey Dyer, TEF Chairman, Ms. Claudette Bryan, President of the Lay Magistrates Association of St. James, Mr. Robin Russell, Chapter Chair, Montego Bay JHTA, Dr. Janet Dyer, Managing Director, Heart Trust NTA, Carl Olaf Kaiser, Fire Engineer, Heather Pinnock, Deputy General Manager, Urban Development Corporation, Richard Lawrence, Director of Engineering, Bureau of Standards, Kevin O'Rourke, President and CEO, Peak Screen Construction Incorporated, Kadeen Mears, Entrepreneur and Business Executive, Will Federoff, Phase Change Products, well, Matthew is not here yet, Una May Garden, President, Director, Climate Change Division, Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Sharon May Shirley, CEO, Jamaica National Agency for Accreditation, Delano Seawright, representing Honorable Minister of Tourism, who unavoidably is absent, councillors of the St. James Municipal Corporation, and my family, the media. You guys have been fantastic, so it would be remiss of me, Janet, you would agree, to not mention our members and our partners from the media. So to our sponsors, Hardware and Lumber, who have once again taken the leap of faith with Build Expo. Thank you, guys. Terrestrial, for also taking a bigger leap this year with Build Expo. And to our silver sponsors, Alcor, Opportunities New Brunswick, Dollar Financial, Pier 1, Deja Resort, Event, Expos and Exhibitions, Elliptic Digital, John Swaby Entertainment, Sunscape, Knutsford Express, Jamaica Observer, Montego Bay Convention Center, UDC, National Housing Trust, and all of those who have been praying for me. So, who am I? I'm the crazy guy that came up with the idea to have a Build Expo. So Build Expo is back, bigger and better this year. Why are we back? Because our mandate is the continued pursuit of best practice solutions for the building and development sector, and also our intent to continuously demonstrate to Jamaicans and persons far beyond that attractive, functional, and affordable housing and development solutions are nearer at hand than one would think. Climate change is being influenced by human intervention in a negative way, and therefore we at Build Expo believe that with innovative ideas such as hemp, we can produce more environmentally friendly ways to build our nation. Everyone here knows that Jamaicans are farmers at heart, so when we observe the levels of unused farmlands, it's telling. So, therefore, with smart ideas such as the conversion of abandoned cane lands into hemp lands, for example, will stimulate some of these once vibrant communities. The building and development industries is one of the largest in the world. However, our culture is not in keeping with new trends. This is somewhat influenced by our underexposure of our people through their inability to attend Build Expos in Canada, North America, all over the world, through whatever challenges they have. So what have we done? We've brought the world to Jamaica. We've brought a world here so that persons of our native land and the Caribbean can have a world-class experience in new ideas. Ladies and gentlemen, you all have heard mention of this much-anticipated geodesic home, which is our giveaway. Well, you may have noticed on your way in, it is absent. However, I am pleased to announce that at the 11th hour, you see I'm sweating, the Jamaica Customs has released it, and it's on its way. So please, let's hear it for Jamaica Customs, boy. These are actually this is not just sweat, but there's a little tears in it too. You know, it's been a long road. So, sponsors, partners, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for sharing in this vision. And I look forward to hosting you this weekend at the only, in the Caribbean, and greatest Build Expo and Conference. Thank you.
Respect and manners, Mr. Crawford. Give it up one more time. Well done, sir. Young and fairly young people doing their thing. He falls in the fairly young category. So, ladies and gentlemen, we continue. And it's my distinct pleasure to welcome to the podium. People always say this is so cliche. A gentleman that needs no introduction. But I'm here to introduce him, so that's what I'm going to do. And his experience, especially in portfolios related to housing, water, works, economic development, I guess it makes a lot of sense that he is now full-time securing our future. He is Dr. Horace Chang, the Honorable Dr. Horace Chang, Member of Parliament, and now the Minister of National Security. Make him feel welcome.
Thank you, our moderator, Mr. Brown. I think the organizer has gone through a long list of protocol, but I'd begin, I must recognize His Worship Mayor, Councillor Homer Davis, and Pastor Keane, who came in while he was at prayer, and of course our guest from Canada, His Excellency Ms. Laura Peters, Canadian High Commissioner to Jamaica, and a very active party for Jamaica, the Canadian country. It's one of our very valued partner in the development program, other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. As you say, I'm not in the program. I'm here really to give my support to young Mr. Debo, as we call him, Mr. Crawford, who has originated this concept of Build Expo and Conference. And I really want to extend my congratulations to and commendation to Mr. Crawford, and to extend the full support of the government. It may by pure coincidence, in fact, the Prime Minister opened the event last year. He's not here, and I'm acting head of government, and I'm here with you this year. So it does reflect the support that you have from this government, that you have had the head of government on both occasions. Right? But I think Dubai's effort not only deserves commendation, but I think it reflects the kind of innovation and entrepreneurship that has come to characterize Montego Bay and the younger generation of leadership in Montego Bay, really. And they deserve the full support of all of us in the city. The construction industry is maybe one of the most critical elements in the economy. In fact, coming from where I'm in, where it's been housing, it's often said that the housing start reflects the dynamism in the economy. And in fact, the built environment reflects the development state of the country. And in today's world where you're looking at climate change and other challenges, it's not so much of pulling the building material together and putting together a structure for a particular purpose. You have to take into consideration many other factors to ensure that we are environmentally friendly and successful at the same time to be functional. So in fact, the debate and discussion surrounding building and construction is critical. It's also important to begin to look as a country where we get our supplies from, the kind of supplies we have, and how we can, in fact, in the Jamaican context, maybe begin to create a philosophy of building and construction for ourselves. And that is maybe looking at the material we have and what we have to bring in and ensure that we create a built environment that looks Jamaican and that reflects our culture and our philosophy as a country as we grow the economy. So I really want to commend again, I said, Dwight and the team that has organized this and has put together what's an excellent exhibition and conference. It was very good last year. As I said, it's bigger and better this year. And we look forward to continuing, and that next year will be even bigger and better. And I can assure you of the support of this government for what you're doing, Dwight. Congratulations, and very good and continued success in this effort to all.
So there is such a thing as the MC's prerogative. And it was my prerogative to do a little juggling just now as we welcome the acting head of government and make way thereafter for our city's first citizen. So from country to city. And I'd like now to welcome to the podium to bring his message, the Mayor of Montego Bay, Councillor Homer Davis, His Worship, the Mayor.
As was said, the protocol list has already been identified, but I will still recognize the Minister of National Security, Honorable Dr. Horace Chang, Her Excellency Laurie Peters, Canadian High Commissioner to Jamaica and the Bahamas, major sponsors, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, a very, very good evening to you all. Good evening. Yes, we're in Montego Bay, man. Let me, on behalf of the St. James Municipal Corporation, I extend a warm welcome to you to the opening of Build Expo Conference being hosted in the safest, friendliest, and fastest growing city in the Caribbean. The St. James Municipal Corporation embraces this expo and conference and looks forward to the new technological developments in construction industry, which will be showcased over the next 4 days. This expo will unveil a wide range of innovations which transcend present-day methods of construction. In adopting the new technologies in building and construction industry, we must not lose sight of the sustainability and maintenance of best practices in the environment. With the impact of climate change, we must be mindful of its consequences. We must also look at how we can minimize the whole aspect of urban regeneration, whilst also placing more emphasis on rural development, which in and of itself would remove the demands on existing infrastructure in our urban centers. I am positive that at the close of this event, all players in the building sectors, artisans, craftsmen, architects, builders, and even laypersons will benefit immensely from the wealth of information garnered at this event. In this regard, congratulations are in order for those members of the sector who have already adopted the use of cutting-edge technology. We have already seen where this move has resulted in far-reaching socio-economic benefit to the country as a whole. The effects of Hurricane Gilbert in 1988 became an impetus for the use of block and steel. However, with advancement in the sector, novel ideas and techniques are being embraced. And that is where I know the chairman of this Build Expo, Councillor Crawford, has embarked on the idea of putting our cane lands, and I'm sure the Minister of Agriculture, when he comes here, our cane lands into growing hemp that can be used into the construction industry. You have the support of the St. James Municipal Corporation, and you have the Minister of National Security here. So the St. James Municipal Corporation is already adopting new technologies and better building practices as it seeks to better support the building sector. Over the past year, the St. James Municipal Corporation has implemented the Amanda system, which has so far resulted in greater participation from state agencies in regulating the construction sector. This system, ladies and gentlemen, creates a platform which facilitates comments from members of the public following the submission of building and other development plans. The St. James Municipal Corporation once again welcome the Build Expo and Conference, as it provides a great opportunity for players in the sector to exchange ideas, build on the successes already gained, and work towards more efficiency and cooperation. Let me take this opportunity to remind us all that construction is one of the most important sectors in Jamaica. It not only provides avenue for creativity among our architects and builders, but provides sustainable jobs for our people. I wish the organizer of this event all the success and look forward to Build Expo and Conference fulfilling its potential of being the world-class event for which it is known. Ladies and gentlemen, God bless you and thank you.
A very merely not merely, mayorally message. Give it up for him one more time, please. Merely a slip of the tongue there. Nearly. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we continue. Before we get to our very, very special visiting guest, who now must have a very interesting conversation going on with G7 coming up and all the things that have happened in the last few days via Twitter, etc. But she's very, very happy to be here as part of the team here in Jamaica. And we're going to be talking a little bit about one of the very exciting elements of this year's event, which is a commemorative magazine for last year and this year's event. But ladies and gentlemen, allow me to speak a little bit before she does come to the podium. In Ottawa, Ms. Peters served as Executive Director, Public Affairs, where she led the international dimension of Canada's 150th anniversary of Confederation for Global Affairs Canada. In that capacity, she established a team to advance and revitalize public diplomacy. She strengthened the global brand for Canada. She also worked with Canadian Heritage as Director of Communications and Public Affairs at the 2005 World Exposition in Japan. She joined Foreign Affairs and International Trade in Canada in 2011 as Counselor and Head of Public Affairs at the Embassy of Canada to Japan, a position she held until 2015. During this time, she also served as a Senior Trade Commissioner overseeing international education and culture industry portfolios. She undertook her posting as Canadian High Commissioner to Jamaica and the Bahamas with accreditation to Cayman Islands and Turks and Caicos Islands in September 2017. She's giving me that cut look. That was it. So ladies and gentlemen, please, it's with distinct pleasure that I ask you to give a real Jamaican round of applause for a visiting friend from up north, Her Excellency Laurie Peters, Canadian High Commissioner to Jamaica.
Thank you, kind Master of Ceremonies. Much too long of an introduction, but I will take it. If you permit me, Your Worship and Minister, I will acknowledge the established protocols and begin this evening by saying good evening. Bonsoir. Merci. It is indeed a real pleasure for me to be here as Canada's High Commissioner to Jamaica. We'll forget the Bahamas part tonight. We're in Jamaica. As Canada's High Commissioner to Jamaica, it's a real delight also to have the opportunity, or I could say excuse, to get out of Kingston and be here in beautiful Montego Bay. In fact, the first time I was here was just on the heels of hurricane season with Her Majesty's ship Moncton. You'll recall that we brought the hurricane season on board, especially for that night. It was heavy rains, but I did have a chance to meet His Worship that evening, as well as a few of you here tonight, including the organizer, Dwight. So it's a pleasure to be back and to, if I may build on, pardon the pun, and in very concrete terms, build on what has been said earlier this evening. We're pleased to be partnering with Build Expo conference this year and delighted to see an increased Canadian participation. I'm especially proud to highlight the increased Canadian delegation this year, including, as you heard earlier, Opportunities New Brunswick, presenting on the program and exhibiting. In addition, we're pleased to welcome returning companies from last year, so you know what a success it was for them to come back, and new companies who have an interest here in Jamaica. As you know from your program, this year's theme is Build the Future Today. And indeed, the emphasis on design, construction, environment, and smart architecture is relevant to both of our countries. And on this front, just let me touch on briefly a top Canadian government priority for Jamaica and the Caribbean, which is climate change and resiliency and climate action. As we have entered another hurricane season, let me just look briefly at the past year. As I mentioned, I arrived just on the heels of hurricane season. And I was able to see firsthand that, as always, Canada has valued deeply our rich historical ties and long-standing friendship with Jamaica. We have extensive people-to-people ties. In fact, the Prime Minister, who couldn't be with us this evening, is in fact in Canada at this moment. Last night he was able to further engage with the Jamaican diaspora in Toronto and is on his way to Quebec as we speak to participate in an important outreach session on oceans. A unique opportunity for a Caribbean leader, a Jamaican leader, to be around the same table as the G7 leaders. And on the team of construction, let's all hope and pray for constructive dialogue, building of bridges, maybe mending of fences, and cementing some new strong relationships, I would think. And we'll leave the hurricanes to this part of the world if need be. It was, however, last year's devastating hurricane season that reminded Canadians just how connected we are. We were reminded that small island states are on the front line of climate change. We were reminded that so many Canadians visiting the Caribbean, as we love to do by the tens and hundreds of thousands, we were reminded that your safety and ours are one and the same. So in response to the hurricanes, we moved quickly to provide emergency relief to Caribbean states. We provided care, consular support for Canadian travelers. We provided $2 million Canadian dollars in immediate humanitarian assistance. We deployed our Canadian Armed Forces to support the Jamaican Defense Forces to support Caribbean countries. And our support to the Caribbean Catastrophic Risk Insurance Facility enabled $50 million in immediate payouts to hurricane-affected countries. But we all know that we need longer-term solutions to Caribbean vulnerability, which brings us to Build Expo and some of the opportunities to look at how we can build smart, how we can build back in effective and efficient ways, and how we can build on the strong lessons and best practices and shared practices that we've learned. We know that donors and government support is extremely important, but it is insufficient to address the climate challenges facing the region, and we believe that the private sector is key to this effort. And that is where Canada can play a role in building the future today. We're experienced in delivering on climate mitigation and adaptation projects, and we're able to support building climate-resilient infrastructure in Jamaica and the wider Caribbean. Canadian expertise in infrastructure and building is broad, and Jamaica can benefit from partnering with Canadian firms to tackle the challenges facing the region in areas of Canadian expertise such as transportation, LEED certification and green building, power generation and transmission, including renewables, of course, water and wastewater treatment, smart cities, and even industrial hemp. Even industrial hemp. In addition, as a recognized world leader in structuring and delivering those P3s, or is it 3 Ps? P3s, public-private partnerships, Canada can play a role in the development of the country's infrastructure projects, such as the Planned Logistics Hub initiative, and also climate-related infrastructure projects. With us this evening, we have representatives from Hatch and from Coal Engineering as well. These are two fine examples of Canadian engineering companies who are active worldwide, including here in the Caribbean, delivering on projects as varied as water and wastewater systems, transportation, renewable energy, hydro, ports, and extractive industries. I'm also very pleased to see a strong Canadian interest in JAMPRO's Investment Forum taking place here next week. All of this was underscored today at a climate infrastructure roundtable, which we hosted with a number of Jamaican and Montagonian partners. Do we say that, Mayor? Montagonian partners, is that right? Yes, okay. And at this meeting, I was delighted, as were my colleagues, to hear views on the local context on how Canada can play a role in building resilience. Tonight, I've stressed the word partnerships. This is a Canadian way. When our companies work in an international context, in a foreign market, we seek to leverage relationships with local partners to help contribute to the economic prosperity for the host country where we are doing business. We seek to develop local talent and to impart Canadian models and best practices related to good governance and corporate social responsibility that can be adapted and tailored to the local realities and customs. This event is a wonderful opportunity for Canada to continue our engagement with prominent Jamaican business leaders as we work together to build a stronger and more resilient Jamaica. Canada wants to contribute to your goal of making the Caribbean the first climate-smart region in the world. And we believe, I believe, that building efficient, green, and resilient today is key to achieving this goal. Before I close, I just want to make sure that you get a chance to meet key members of my team at Canada's High Commission, Richard York and Leslie Ann, who are here. They're the ones over the weekend who are going to be opening the doors and windows, maybe they're Atlantic windows, I'm not sure, opening the doors and windows for you to make sure that the Jamaican companies, the Canadian companies, and the connections are going to be made. Once again, congratulations to the organizers. Thank you for your kind participation and the invitation for Canada to be part of this important expo. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup. And as she said, she timed it perfectly. Her speech was perfectly synchronized with the minister's arrival. That was all synchronized. As we welcome the Honorable Minister Audley Shaw, Minister of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries. Thank you for joining us, sir. I heard a lot of steely reserve in that speech, pun intended. And we continue on that theme of building relationships. And that's what the team here, responsible for Build Expo, continues to do, especially with the Canadian government and their partners, like ONB. So once again, thank you so much for your support. It means a lot to us. Ladies and gentlemen, I alluded to earlier that one of the big things that we're doing this year is we're launching a magazine for this event. And there are some particular topics that we'll be focusing on. You've heard some of these themes before. Architecture as a national asset, creating a virtuous cycle through environmental planning, and that speaks to that climate change roundtable talk that took place earlier today on Block C. Industrial hemp, the Canadian High Commissioner also alluded to that development at a higher level. And of course, a review of what happened last year and what will be happening this year. And so we invite and continue to invite our exhibitors and partners to play a part and have their presence in the magazine, and you get a chance to do that over the weekend. Speaking of over the weekend, on Monday we have changed up the format a little bit, well a lot, because last year, the first year, a lot of growing pains, a lot of learnings, we decided instead of having a concurrent conference and expo situation, we'd separate them. And so Monday is dedicated exclusively to the conference on Block C, from C4 to C6. And we are very pleased to have quite a few of our speakers or presenters who will be there on Monday, whereas before we had them run chronologically behind each other, the speech, the presentation, and Q&A after that. Now we're doing it very differently, and we'll be having 3 panel discussions over the course of that day. So one in the morning from 10 to 11:30, another one from 12:45 to about 2, thereabouts, and one more at 2:30 to 4, the entire day for 10 speakers. So the speakers that are here, I'd like to give them an opportunity to be seen on stage, no speeches, just for them to be recognized for their presence today. So I'm going to invite, if you're here, to stand for the first panel discussion about architecture as a national asset, Dr. Janet Dyer, Carl Olaf Kaiser. That's you? I see him walking. Is that him walking towards me? No, it isn't. Okay. That was really bad timing to start walking, though. Heather Pinnock. Hi, Heather. Not here. Richard Lawrence is on his way. Of course, for the second panel, we're speaking about industrial hemp development at a higher level, Kevin O'Rourke. Ah, there he is. Thank you. Give him a round of applause, please. So you were just doing a dress rehearsal. All right, good stuff. Kadeen Mears. There he is. Mr. Will Fedroeff. I got that right. Phase Change Products. And of course, Kadeen is an entrepreneur and business executive. And Kevin is president and CEO of Peaks Green Constructors. Our third panel discussion, Senator Matthew Samuda will be presenting. He's government senator and entrepreneur. Una Mae Gordon, principal director, Climate Change Division, Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. Thank you for joining us this evening. And last but not least, Sharon May Shirley, CEO, Jamaica National Agency for Accreditation. And I saw them set up their booth earlier. So give it up for all our speakers, ladies and gentlemen. At this time, we'd like to invite to bring a brief message. Well, they are our gold sponsors, but they really give us platinum service. Really, they do. And at this time, ladies and gentlemen, it's my distinct pleasure to welcome the Deputy CEO of Hardware and Lumber, Mrs. Olive Downer Walsh. Make her feel welcome, please.
Thank you, Mr. Master of Ceremony. Honorable Audley Shaw, Minister of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries. Honorable Dr. Horace Chang, Minister of National Security. His Worship, the Mayor, Councillor Homer Davis. Her Excellency, Laurie Peters, Canadian High Commissioner to Jamaica. Mr. Dwight Crawford, Chairman of Build Expo and Conference. Mr. Joseph Bogdanovich, Director of Hardware and Lumber and Principal Shareholder. Mr. Lloyd Distant, our CEO, other members of the team, fellow exhibitors, members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all, good evening. Thank you. It is with great humility that I bring you greetings this afternoon on behalf of our board, the management and staff of Hardware and Lumber Limited. We at Hardware and Lumber are very delighted to be a part of yet another Build Expo and Conference, which has indeed evolved into a nerve center to promote the construction sector, home ownership, and property development in Jamaica and the wider Caribbean community. Our experience of having participated in the inaugural event last year was a positive one, and it has truly set the stage for global knowledge to be shared. As promised, the exhibits were all very high standard, and I'm sure those of you who were there will attest to that. It facilitated great interactivity with patrons showcasing innovative solutions for the construction, home improvement, and landscaping sectors. Your dream, Debo, my brother and friend, not just initiated in 2017, but exhibited in confidence through this consecutive second year of the staging of the Expo. We would like to commend you for this vision, planning, execution, and commitment towards ensuring the dream was not only realized, but remain alive. And I must admit, Dwight, I wear, on behalf of Hardware and Lumber, two hats: construction, agriculture. And I was very pleased when we listened to you, your desire for cane lands that are abandoned to be considered for hemp, because I'm like, yes, it would remain in agriculture. So Hardware and Lumber supports this dream of showcasing excellence while facilitating a process for positive contribution to a growing sector and economy. Through our business units, H&L Rapid True Value and H&L Agro, this has been our experience for over 90 years, and one which we intend to continue counting on beyond our wildest dream. There is no doubting the various ways that we have contributed to construction, home improvement, and agricultural sectors, a direction in which we will continue towards further enhancement of development and productivity. Honorable Minister Shaw, having made an appeal during my remarks on this program last year to the keynote speaker then, or Honorable Prime Minister Holness, it was about two matters that are of great concern to us as Jamaicans all. On reflection of your new ministerial portfolio, permit me, please, to re-emphasize our willingness to collaborate with the government, if required, on the development of a mandatory pre-construction termite treatment program. This practice certainly would be a win-win for all stakeholders. The second point, Minister, is the adherence to effective land zoning policy. Arguably, thank you, arguably, Minister, a necessity to ensure viability of industrial growth. A balance is always a necessity. I'm sure you'll agree. Hardware and lumber business focus remains strategically grounded in agriculture and construction, both key segments of national focus and drivers of economic growth. This therefore provides the foundation for our interest and willingness for partnership with the government and all other pertinent stakeholders. Be assured, ladies and gentlemen, that through strong partnership with end users, resellers, developers, government agencies, other local stakeholders, and leading global manufacturers and suppliers, such as two of our partners present today, and they're from True Value International. Let's give them some love for being here. Thank you. And our partners from Stanley Black & Decker Incorporated. Thank you. We at Hardware and Lumber are very proud of our contribution thus far to economic growth, and we intend to continue on that path to provide the Jamaican community with innovative solutions, quality products, backed by a competent team as we all seek to enhance all of what we do here and the wider Caribbean community. In closing, we again salute the Build Expo and Conference team for the tremendous effort and focus in setting the stage for what we are all confident will be a second successful event, Dwight, and it promises to be very rewarding and an impactful experience. Look around and we begin to feel that experience. Mr. Master of Ceremony, please permit me to invite our director and principal shareholder, Mr. Joseph Bogdanovich, to join me to share a brief message. Thank you.
Well, this is rather impromptu. I didn't expect to be here with a speaking engagement tonight, but thank you for all being here. And it was really great being at this expo last year, the inauguration. And I just want to thank Dwight for coming up with this idea and really helping to develop the city and the country, basically from the foundation up. Thank you very much.
I think this is an Oprah moment. You know, when she says, you get a car, you get a car. So everybody here gets free Sunfest tickets. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Hardware and Lumber, please. And that's a free plug for the upcoming greatest reggae show on earth, coming up July 15 to 22, correct? All right, there you go. Wristband. All right, so now, ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct pleasure to welcome to the podium a man who is used to being in charge. He's a graduate of Knox College and Homewood Technical in Northeast Manchester, and everybody who knows him knows he lives and bleeds Manchester. Worked with Jamaica Milk Products as a lab tech. A lot of you didn't know that. Graduated from Northern Illinois University with a Bachelor of Arts and Master's of Arts degree. Then he went into marketing and finance. After leaving Chicago office of Burson Marsteller, he then joined the Jamaica National Investment Promotion Limited, renamed JAMPRO, and now Jamaica Trade and Invest, as Director of Public Relations and Advertising. Between 83 and 86, he was responsible for JNIP's marketing and overseas offices, which gave him responsibility in the United States, Canada, Japan, Hong Kong, and UK. In 86, though, he resigned his position for government and became a merchant and marketing consultant. But he found his way back home, and he was a leader of opposition, appointed leader of opposition in 89. He served as Shadow Minister for Information and Culture, and Public Utilities and Transport as well as in the Industry and Commerce Ministries. In September 1995, he was appointed Chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, PAC of Parliament, the watchdog of public funds by government ministries and agencies. He also served as General Secretary for the Jamaica Labour Party and has been a deputy leader since 1999. In 2007, Mr. Shaw was appointed Minister of Finance and Public Service in the new government of the JLP. In addition, he assumed the portfolio of planning. During his tenure as Minister of Finance, which saw the world's worst recession since World War II, among the highlights of policies implemented by him was the Jamaica Debt Exchange, an innovative debt management strategy which is hailed by the IMF and other multilateral institutions. He also introduced a fiscal responsibility framework for Jamaica, which include legislative criteria to promote accountability and transparency. In 2013, Mr. Shaw was conferred Jamaica's National Award of Commander of the Order of Distinction in the field of public service. In 2014, he was appointed as Shadow Minister responsible for finance and planning. And thereafter, in 2016, he was reappointed Minister of Finance and Public Service under the JLP administration. And his work in that ministry speaks for itself. Now, ladies and gentlemen, he tries new waters. And I'd like to help you to really help me to welcome to the podium the Honorable Minister Aldershaw, Member of Parliament, Minister of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture, and Fisheries.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everybody. Nice to see all of you, and let me apologize for my late arrival. Let me, first of all, acknowledge just a few people. My colleague member of parliament, of course, Dr. Horace Chang, Minister of National Security, and also acting Prime Minister at this stage. Prime Minister is away, as you know, at Group 7 in Canada. His Worship the Mayor, Councillor Homer Davis, and of course Her Excellency, Laurie Peters, the Canadian High Commissioner to Jamaica and the Bahamas. I had the pleasure of being in your country just a couple of weeks ago in Toronto. And of course, I have to also acknowledge Mr. Bogdanovich and Olive Downer from Hardware and Lumber. And of course, Mr. Dwight Crawford, Chairman of Build Expo and this conference. And for those of you who don't know, Dwight is a son of Manchester. And his father has spent many years of his life in the construction industry. So it's not surprising at all that Dwight is doing what he's doing now. Ladies and gentlemen, it's good to see all of you. And I know after I tell you what I've done since this morning, that you'll forgive me for being late. I had to represent the Prime Minister at the Jamaica Employers Federation conference in Ocho Rios. That was this morning. Then in the afternoon, I journeyed to Alpart in St. Elizabeth, where I spoke with students from 22 schools who are involved in a quality excellence circle focusing on agriculture. Not just planting fresh stuff, but processing food stuff as well. And then I'm here. So this is my third speech for the day. But it was exhilarating to not just speak with employers and remind them that Jamaica, for too long now, we have been in decline in our productivity levels. And I took the time to suggest and to remind our employers that their role as employers has a key part to play in rebuilding the productivity levels of our workers. It means that we have to train them and retrain them. We have to motivate them and remotivate them and keep them motivated. And then it was a real joy to be with the little children talking about agriculture and that it has to be a part of the landscape of wealth creation for us in Jamaica. And if agriculture does well and the economy grows, guess what's going to grow with it? The building industry. And I can tell you something. I have already publicly stated, Horace, that we need to review the method that we are using to measure growth in the economy. We have to. Because I was told recently by Statin that the construction sector was growing by somewhere in the region of 1 to 2%. I am now satisfied and can state publicly, having gone through as much detail as possible, including a critical component, cement. The growth of cement use in Jamaica has far exceeded the projections of the cement company. 2 weeks ago, I had to give special license to import close to 100,000 additional tons of cement into the country. And I can assure you, and we have had to do that in months past as well, I can assure you that the construction sector right now is not growing by 1 or 2%. It's growing by closer to 8 or 9 or up to 10%. It's the growth in the construction sector at this time. Take a look at Kingston. When last have you seen in the corporate area 8 to 10 large cranes in the corporate area? I drive many routes to get to work on time. And every different road I'm driving on, I said, there's a new building. I didn't know that building was going up there. It's an exciting time for Jamaica right now. What we have to do is to carefully, patiently, like the ants that are building an ant heap, that steady, plodding, sure-footed process of building that ant heap is the way we have to build this economy. So it is good to be able to join with you on this second staging of Build Expo. And let me applaud the effort of the organizers in convening this forum to allow industry stakeholders, both local and regional, the opportunity to sit together to discuss these sectoral trends and to learn from each other, because technology in construction is fast moving as it is in so many other areas. The timing of this expo is superb. Globally and regionally, the construction sector and locally is abuzz with activity. And of course, since I've come here, I've heard about hemp. So I have to mention hemp too. And we'll have to see the intersection between industrial hemp and the construction sector. The truth is that hemp itself, along with cannabis, is one of the most dynamic plants in the world today. And I'll have a few things to say about that before I come down. In terms of Jamaica, we are on the cusp of enacting a new building code which seeks to streamline the operations of the sector while improving the safety and durability of our built environment. Jamaica has experienced several natural disasters in the recent past, the impact of which were compounded in many instances by poor infrastructure. Clearly, we cannot predict or stop natural disasters, but we can bolster our ability to withstand them through adequate preparation, which is what the building code seeks to ensure. I'm sure many of you today would not have thought of the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture, and Fisheries in the context of construction. But MICAF has the purview of agencies such as the Trade Board, National Compliance and Regulatory Authority, and the Bureau of Standards. All have a role to play with regards to the construction industry. We play a critical role in ensuring that the construction industry is amply supplied also with safe building materials such as steel, cement, and concrete blocks. Through the work of the Bureau of Standards in developing the Jamaica Building Code, MICAF will have a central role in ensuring that the future of the construction industry will be built on a foundation of safety and resilience, which will strengthen our ability to withstand the ravages of natural disasters. The use of standards is, of course, of great importance, because for too long, Jamaica has had a culture of informality, and this cannot be allowed to continue. We must get to the point where proper planning and foresight is the hallmark of what we do. We cannot continue to have individuals skirt the policies and procedures, build in places which are not suited for buildings, such as gully banks, then come out and bawl for assistance when they are adversely impacted by bad weather. These issues will be curtailed with proper standards. So we are keen on making Jamaica a standards-led environment. And as government, we consider construction and infrastructural development critical economic and social drivers. I want to mention just briefly the whole issue of rain harvesting, because it's one of the things that we sometimes take for granted in the construction industry. We are all stakeholders in the process, and the work of the government needs to be augmented by market-driven trends, and one is rainwater harvesting. It may not yet be a legislated element of the built environment, but we all know the value of it nonetheless. And Horace, I think we need to look to legislation on the issue of enforcing the need that when you build a house, you put up a building, it's a natural reservoir. The roof is a natural catchment area. Let's make it into law that you must catch the water when God sends the rain down and store it, and not just always be depending on the Water Commission. Have your own backup system. And I'm urging the industry to play your part in leading the way in this regard. The value of rainwater harvesting, especially in the context of global warming and the significant shifts in weather patterns we have seen, should make this trend a particularly catchy one for us. We know that government is sometimes slow in catching up with the changes in the markets, but as stakeholders, you too have the power to shape the industry, and rainwater harvesting should be considered to be an important feature of the building industry. I commend it to you. And as I said before, we've heard the talk of industrial hemp. We are told of its many manifestations, its many uses, and its consideration for use also in the construction industry. Interestingly, I have a lot of queries on a lot of different segments of cannabis. And it appears to be such a dynamic situation. A major motor car industry company is interested to grow hemp in Jamaica for use as an alternative in the fabric and the decoration of their vehicles. That is being actively pursued right now. Hemp, High Commissioner, I went to your country a couple of weeks ago, and what is happening over there with hemp and cannabis is nothing short of awesome. It's already rapidly approaching a 20 billion Canadian dollar industry. two companies over the past several weeks have merged to create, in one case, an $8 billion company, another case, a $7 billion company, Canadian dollars. And they are listed on the Canadian Stock Exchange. We in Jamaica need to step up our game on this very important industry. Otherwise, the rest of the world is going to run away and leave us. In a couple years' time, it will approach a 100 billion United States dollar industry. And by 2025, it's estimated to reach 150 billion United States dollars globally. And this includes a range of industrial hemp. Among them, incidentally, Delano is here, a member of the Cannabis Licensing Authority, among other things. But we have already determined that there's a particular strain of hemp that is low in THC, that is the highly, doctor, you should give me the word, is it toxic or, anyway, the strong version, high in THC. But you have a version of hemp that is low in THC, 1% or less, but high in CBD, which is the medicinal side of hemp. And that is one of the areas, apparently now, that is now attracting some attention in the United States. Interestingly, just today, we have heard that President Trump has indicated that he's actually parting company with comments made by a member of his own cabinet in relation to cannabis, suggesting that they are prepared to honor the wishes of individual states to honor the legitimacy of their operations in industrial hemp and cannabis. So as far as I can see, it's not if the United States is eventually going to accept it, it's when. Medicinal cannabis, which includes industrial hemp and different strains, is a big part of the future of medicine globally. We need to understand that. Last year, we are told that close to 100,000 Americans died from overindulgence in opioids. Opioids are killing off a lot of people globally, synthetic drugs. And here is this miracle plant. We call it ganja. Some call it marijuana, others call it cannabis, and some strains is hemp. But call it by whatever name, it is a natural plant that has many more good qualities than it has bad qualities. And it's a question of the effective management of it so that it can redound to our benefit as a country, even as it is being manifested now in developed countries. Imagine in Canada, on the Canadian Stock Exchange, how much more legitimate can you get? So when in my first speech, having come back as Minister of Finance a couple of years ago, I was the one to mention cannabis in my speech. Little did I know that I was apparently applying for the job. So here I am. But there are other things that I did to apply for the job. You see, my father, Joe, worked in a hardware store. So we had a connection to building right there. So, but Daddy also raised animals, cattle, had to help him milk the cows, raise pigs, planted Irish potatoes, red peas, pumpkin, yam, sweet potato. And I had to help him with all of that. Then I joined the 4-H clubs as a student at Homewood. And I remember it was my first election I went into. And I was elected national president of the Jamaica 4-H Club when I was 18 years old, Your Worship. You know what my daddy did? My picture was in the newspaper. I was walking, stepping high. Daddy came and woke me up one morning and hit me with the paper with my photograph in it and said, "Get up, Mr. National President. Come and help me feed the hog them." He was teaching me work ethic and also teaching me to remain grounded at all times. So this evening I want to once again congratulate young Mr. Crawford, my fellow Manchesterian, and your colleagues on this initiative and this enterprise. And I ask everyone here, as I spoke with the Employers Federation this morning, let's not give up on our people. Yes, we have some who are misguided, but we have a country that is full of potential. We have idle hands, and guess what? We have idle lands. And we've got to put them together. I flew across South America on a trip to Mendoza in Argentina. Didn't know it was my last trip as Minister of Finance. But flying over South America, the productivity was there for their eyes to behold. Everywhere, something, industrial crop, sorghum, a lot of them can be grown right here in Jamaica. Sorghum, barley, wheat, you name it. And where there is non-industrial crop, cattle, sheep, something is happening. And Mayor, what are we doing in Jamaica? Our young men are driving up and down in Westmoreland and all over the place, flying on the little cars, and grab a telephone and call somebody in New York or abroad, somewhere in America, and says, "You just won the lotto." Lotto scamming. Well, there is so much potential in our country, and there is much more good than there is bad. Our people want opportunities. Our people want positive role models. And we must provide the opportunities for people to take those hundreds of thousands of acres of idle land, and we've got to put them into production. And I'm going to tell you something as I come down. There is a great demand for land. And I've ordered a rationalization of all sugar company lands. I'm working with the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. All lands that are owned by the National Land Agency, we are doing a rationalization, we are doing an inventory, and I can now tell you that there are requests on my desk for thousands of acres of land to do things other than sugarcane. Thousands of acres. Red Stripe already has 1,000 acres in cassava. They want 4,000 more, and they want to work with small farmers on that. And we have other interests across the board. CB Group has 400 acres right now in onions, in sweet corn, in Sea Island cotton. I was in Rome earlier this week. And they pay a high price for Jamaican Sea Island cotton. CB wants another 1,000 acres on their way to 2,000 acres. And the beauty of it, CB, Grace Kennedy, others, they want to work in contractual relationships with farmers. Small farmers, medium-sized farmers, upfront inputs. And on a crop lean basis, get production going. And then the next frontier, which we're working on, is we've got to have agro-processing zones, including the old AMC building on Spanish Town Road, half a mile or less from the port. We've got to turn that into an agro-industrial, agro-processing zone. So we eat what is fresh, we send it to the North Coast to the tourists, and we process and we export it in the first instance to the Caribbean, and we can send the fresh material to the Caribbean as well, because they, most, except for Guyana and a little from Trinidad, most of the Caribbean has to import all of their food. And Jamaica can export it to them duty-free under the common external tariff. We cannot fool around anymore. We are out of time, and I'm happy to be here because this is part of the productivity and the growth that we need. I commend you, and may God bless all of you. Thank you.
To try to add anything to that would be sacrilege. So I ask you again to give a big round of applause to the Honorable Minister. It wasn't just a speech. There was a lot of content, context, and a lot of not just promises, but intent, and a lot of work that has already taken place that is now bearing fruit.
But I can't seem to find my way over. Wondering I am lost as I traveled along the white cliffs of Dover. But it's only my will that keeps me alive. I've been licked and washed up for years and years, but I merely survive because of my pride. And this loneliness won't leave me alone. It's such a drag to be on your own. My man left me, he didn't say why. And I guess I have to cry. Find my way over. Wondering I am lost as I traveled along the white cliffs of Dover. And this loneliness won't leave me alone. It's such a drag to be on your own. My man left me, he didn't say why. And I guess I have to
I do sincerely apologize for breaking your moment of relaxation, but I do believe that thanks is appropriate. The Honorable Audley Shaw, Minister of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture, and Fisheries, Honorable Dr. Horace Chang, Minister of National Security, Her Excellency Laurie Peters, Canadian High Commissioner, Senator the Honorable Matthew Samuda, His Worship the Mayor, Councillor Homer Davis, our Chairman, Mr. Dwight Crawford, and all our distinguished guests, good evening. You can design and create and build the most wonderful place in the world, but it takes people to make the dream a reality. It is my privilege to deliver the vote of thanks on behalf of the entire Build Expo and Conference 2018 team on this remarkable day. Our sincere thanks to our sponsors, Hardware and Lumber Limited, Therrestra, Deja, Alcor Windows and Doors, the Montego Bay Convention Center, Opportunity New Brunswick, the Canadian High Commission in Jamaica, Pier 1, Knutsford Express, Mr. John Swaby, Dollar Financial, Ecliptic Digital, Exhibit Expos and Events, Mellow FM, RJR, Power 106, TVJ, the National Housing Trust, and UDC, who all took a leap of faith in realizing the significance of this occasion, and to our esteemed guests, internationally and locally, for gracing us with their experience and enthusiasm. We would also like to extend our gratitude to all our partnered companies who worked tirelessly and persistently to ensure that this event, the only one of its kind in the region, is manifested from being a dream to a reality. Finally, I would like to take a moment to thank the support staff and all our volunteers for their immense contribution to the successful execution of this year's Expo and Conference. On that note, gratitude makes sense of your past, brings peace for today, and creates a vision for tomorrow. We thank you.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us. Above only sky. Imagine all the people living for the world. Imagine there's no countries. Is it if you try? No greed and no hunger. A brotherhood of men. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I am a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I am someday you join us, and the world would be as it was. Ooh, oh. A brotherhood of men. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I am a dreamer, but